So the topic today is about soft skills. Basically, what are soft skills and why in the heck are they important to a person's success? By the way, if you don't know the answer to these two questions, then you are quite likely passing up higher levels of income and freedom. When I first started the Leaders Institute, I used to begin my high impact leaders classes by giving my definition of soft skills. And basically, I'd explain that hard skills are the technical skills within your career or industry. For instance, if you're a doctor or nurse, the hard skills are that's your ability to assess the health of your patients and treat or cure the illness. The soft skills, however, allow you to effectively use those hard skills to do your job better. These skills include your ability to communicate effectively, or manage your time, or work with others, or build teamwork. So, unfortunately, there are about as many definitions for the different types of soft skills as there are people in the world. So in this session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to categorize these abilities, these skills into easy to follow groups. And that's going to help you kind of focus on the specific skills that are going to be most important for your career and for your industry. So let's start off by just kind of giving a quick definition of what are soft skills. And I'll give you the general categories that I came up with. So I created four main categories of soft skill. And each one of these categories, by the way, there are dozens, maybe even hundreds of different types of important skills. So understanding the different categories can sometimes be a little difficult because different organizations often have different definitions for each of these. It really gets confusing. So if you're not careful, sometimes you can be using terms that somebody else is using a different definition for that term, and it can get even more confusing. So that's why I wanted to kind of clarify that a little bit on this session. So one of the first things that our consultants do when we're speaking to a new client is we try to understand that new client's definition of those certain terms. For instance, they may call us asking us for help developing leadership skills. However, they may in fact really be looking for first time supervisor training skills, right? So I've given a summary of the different categories that we use. So don't really get hung up on the semantics though. What I've done is I've done my best to identify the high level categories as a starting point to explain each type of skill set, and then hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier to understand. So the first category that I kind of created, we're the Leaders Institute. So the first category is what we call leadership skill. So leadership is kind of the highest level of soft skill within an organization. And these skills are important at just about every level of a person's career, by the way. So a lot of times people will kind of see the term leadership and they think that only the CEO has those skills or something like that. It's the exact opposite. In fact, leadership skills are those things that if you have them at every level of the organization, your organization is going to run more efficiently and more smoothly, and there's going to be more creativity and stuff like that. So these skills are used to inspire other people. They create a vision for a new path, and then develop skills and confidence of the people around them as well. So basically, leaders create paths where no path previously existed. So the most common leadership skill examples would be things like innovation. So if somebody's really innovative, then they're going to be seen as being a good leader. Collaboration, how to get people that work for them and work around them to really collaborate and share their ideas. Visionary, so being able to create a vision of where you want your team to go and help them move toward that vision. Being able to motivate people, and creativity and inspiration. So those are things that when people describe leadership, those are a lot of times the skills that they're looking for. So the second category is management skills. And one of the first theories of management skills was really created by a French engineer. His name was Henry Fayol. I probably mispronounced it because he's a French dude, right? So, but his work was so well read at his time that the five, sometimes six functions of management, they're still used today. A lot of times in colleges and universities and management skills classes for professional companies, that kind of thing. They're going to include a lot of these things. So this is what he came up with. His included planning, organizing, coordinating, commanding, and controlling. Those are the 5 main ones. Now, using this list, a few important management skills that are created as a result of that really focus on those kind of things. So like, for instance, things that come up a lot in management skills would be things like goal setting and achievement. So being able to really set goals for yourself and for your team, and then achieving those goals. And then other skills are things like organizing skills. So how do you get things scheduled effectively and organized in an effective way? Time management, delegation, problem solving. So as you can see, the focus of these management skills is totally different from the leadership skills that I referenced earlier. The difference between leadership and management skills is that the leadership is more visionary. The leaders create a new path that didn't exist, whereas managers make that path that we're on more efficient and more effective. So that's really the difference between the two. The third area is supervisory skills. So the role of a supervisor is similar to a manager, but without as much authority. So think of a supervisory skill as a subset of the managerial skills. Supervisors often have the responsibility to manage the team members, but not necessarily the authority to make huge decisions. Maybe not, maybe they won't be able to hire or fire anybody, or make any type of personnel changes or policy changes. They'll have to get approval from a higher manager. So as a result, the supervisor is more concerned about the specific day-to-day activities of his or her team. So a few examples would include things like organizational skills, just like in the management stuff. Time management, same thing. This time, though, there are going to be more of the soft skills involved, things like communication and people skills and training skills. How do I train my people to do the things that they need to do? So as you can see, there are a few similarities with the skills required for the supervisor as for those of a manager. However, to be a quality manager, you really have to develop more than just supervisor skills. There's typically more involved in the management level. So the last category that I'm going to cover, though, is what we call interpersonal skills. And interpersonal skills help team members work together more effectively and build more of a team culture within the organization. These skills are important at all levels of the organization, by the way. They're the skills that make all of the other skills work. For instance, if you've got great vision for your organization, but you have poor people skills, then your team is going to be less likely to follow you on that journey. So if you've got great time management skills, but you aren't great at conflict resolution, then the conflicts can wreck your schedule. So the skills that that are involved in interpersonal skills are really critical to the success of the supervisor, the manager, and the leader. So you have to have all of these things. So some of these skill examples would be things like the people skills, which we mentioned in a couple of different places, conflict resolution, listening skills, patience, responsibility, dependability. All of those things are things that are important to a person's success. So when we think about soft skills, things like all 4 of those categories, you got the leadership skills, management skills, supervisory, and the interpersonal skills. How are these things really important to a person's success? Well, since the skills that we've talked about on this episode are they're really, really valuable to organizational success, people who develop these skills are actually more valuable to the marketplace. For instance, when a big company hires new frontline employees, most often they're going to narrow their candidates based on the hard skills, the things that person knows how to do. Then they often do this, by the way, based on resumes or interviews, something like that, right? However, when we get further along in the interview process, especially if it's a second interview or sometimes even a third interview, the employer is most likely going to begin to try to figure out which candidate is most dependable, is most responsible, is friendly, is easy to work with, has good time management skills, and those kind of things. So which candidates can work well with others? Since most supervisors are promoted from within, managers often look for employees who have the best time management skills and who have organizational skills when they promote somebody, right? My point is that when all other things are equal, people with the best soft skills are often more successful than those who aren't, right? So if you're an employee who wants to be promoted to a supervisor, working on developing your supervisory skills is going to be helpful. If you're a supervisor who wants to move into management, you want to work on your managerial skills. If you're a manager who wants to move into leadership, develop your leadership skills. And if you want to start your own company, well, might be a good idea to develop all of these skills because they're all going to be important as you at some point along the way during your growth process. The good news, by the way, is that there are lots of places out there that can help. There's lots of books and organizations out there that can help. By the way, the High Impact Leaders Program, I've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast. It's a step-by-step way to develop all of these skills. So we start with the ones that are most important, the interpersonal skills, and then we move to the supervisory skills, and then we focus on the important managerial skills, and then finally we develop the next generation of leaders with our leadership skills. So if you're interested in learning about any of that stuff, just go to leadersinstitute.com for details.